Silence or stand and remain standing. The Court of the Federal Court of Australia is now in session. Be seated, please.
Please call the welcome.
Welcome of the Honourable Justice Lenehan.
A warm welcome to you all. We're on Gadigal country. For many generations before colonisation, the ancestors of the Gadigal people walked these lands, cared for their country and practiced their laws and customs in their languages. I recognise and respect the determination of their present elders and communities to preserve their connection to country, to their laws, to their customs and to their languages. We're honoured this morning to be joined by a large number of distinguished guests, including judges of the High Court of Australia, the New South Wales Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal, the Victorian Court of Appeal, the Federal Circuit and Family Court, and former justices of this court. It's indeed a pleasure to see how packed the courtroom is today. Many members of council, solicitors, members of the Academy, and colleagues from federal and state tribunals and courts, welcome to you all. Welcome especially to those who might not be in courtrooms as much as some of us, members of Justice Lenehan's family and his friends. No one achieves a milestone like today by themselves, and today is an opportunity to acknowledge all the support and encouragement which has helped his honour to reach this point in his outstanding career. A public welcome also enables those who watch it to understand and reflect on the exceptional qualities and attributes which a new judge will bring to their work as a justice of this court. By the acknowledgement of their achievements, their expertise and their personal qualities, the profession and the community can be confident that the new judge, today Justice Lenehan, will administer justice according to law with independence, fairness, courage and impartiality. Justice Lenehan, on behalf of the judges, registrars and staff of the Federal Court, our congratulations on your appointment. The Honourable Attorney-General for the Commonwealth, I invite you to address the court.
May it please the court. I begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I also extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. It is a great privilege to be here to congratulate Your Honour on your appointment as a Justice of the Federal Court of Australia. You are my first such appointment as Commonwealth Attorney-General and the best such one I could make. On behalf of the government, I thank you for Your Honour's willingness to serve as a Justice of this court. I extend to you my most sincere best wishes for your calling to the bench. Your Honour's appointment to this court is another success in what I know has been a diverse and eminent career. That so many of your colleagues in the legal profession are here today is a testament to the high esteem in which you are held. May I particularly acknowledge the Honourable Chief Justice Stephen Gageler AC of the High Court of Australia, Honourable Justices Jacqueline Gleeson, Jane Jago, Robert Beach-Jones, also of the High Court of Australia, the Honourable Chief Justice Andrew Bell AC of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, and all other current and former members of the judiciary and members of the legal profession. I also acknowledge the presence of Your Honour's family, who proudly share this occasion with you. In particular, your partner Selena, your daughter Olive, your parents Brian and Wallace, and members of your wider family. Time does not permit a full exposition of Your Honour's achievements and the contributions you have made to the law. However, it is with great pleasure that I speak to a few qualities that have culminated in your appointment to this court. Your Honour was born in Lismore and grew up in Armidale, where you lived with your parents, younger brother Bruce, and a menagerie of dogs, cats, and a bird. While an enthusiastic soccer player and medium-pace bowler, I am told that Your Honour preferred the imaginative worlds offered by books and that you often smuggled a torch to bed to continue reading after lights out. I understand Your Honour's love for books continues today and is especially enriched because of the recommendations of your beautiful Olive. While Your Honour is an avid reader, you did not hold the same passion for maths. I am told that on one occasion, you even skipped school to avoid your maths class. The attempt was not successful, perhaps because your father was a maths teacher at Armidale High, who came home to collect you and make sure you attended. Your different views on arithmetic notwithstanding, I am told that your parents instilled within you a strong sense of social justice and a concern with ensuring genuine equality. It is clear to see how this influenced Your Honour's decision to pursue a career in the law. Your Honour graduated from Macquarie University with a Bachelor of Science in 1991 and from the University of New South Wales with a Bachelor of Laws with honours in 1993. Your Honour then started your legal career as a solicitor at Freehills in 1994. Despite your gruelling hours at Freehills, I am told that Your Honour continued to work the volunteer shift at Redfern Legal Centre on Wednesday nights, which was just as well because it was at a dinner for volunteers that you met Selena. After 8 years at Freehills, Your Honour joined what we now know as the Australian Human Rights Commission, where you worked initially as a senior legal officer and later as a deputy director. Your Honour signed the New South Wales Bar Roll in 2006 and was awarded the Convenavis Prize for the highest aggregate score in the New South Wales Bar examinations. Your Honour accepted an appointment as Senior Counsel in 2019. As a barrister, Your Honour developed a distinguished public law practice, specialising in constitutional administrative law matters and appellate work. Your Honour's expertise was reflected in your position as Honorary Fellow of the Gilbert and Tobin Centre for Public Law, and your recognition by the Doyle's Guide as a leading administrative and public law barrister for 5 consecutive years from 2021, which is each year since this category was included in the guide. Your Honour also continued to demonstrate your strong interest and advocacy for human rights during this time, noting your long-standing membership in the Human Rights Committee of the New South Wales Bar Association. Throughout your career, Your Honour has been known for that far too rare blend of extraordinary intellect and deep humility. Your colleagues speak of these characteristics being accompanied by a kindness and generosity that sees you nurture the talents of others and contribute to the betterment of Australian society, particularly through your extensive pro bono work. Your Honour has been described as someone with an unwavering belief in the primacy of the rule of law and a willingness to take on cases where there is an important principle worth fighting for. Your Honour is an avid cyclist and can be seen bringing your bike everywhere, even into chambers. While the bike may be the best way to get around, it might also reflect the unreliability of the Lenehan family VW Combi van, or the quirks of your first car, which I am told was generally started by your schoolmates jump-starting it by pushing it down a hill that led from the Armidale High School car park. I understand that you now enjoy taking long bike rides with your son, Sebastian. I'm told that to celebrate Sebastian turning 18, Your Honour took him on a 5-day camping bike ride, which involved reliving all the best aspects of childhood camping. Your Honour also has a passion for music, with a talent for improvising on the piano and guitar. As a teenager, I understand that Your Honour was in a number of bands, none of which quite managed to escape the garage. This love of music is now shared with Olive, alongside a fascination with whimsical trinkets, figurines and pots that you search for together at markets. Your Honour's appointment to this court acknowledges your dedication to the law and accomplishments in the legal profession. Your Honour takes on this judicial office with the best wishes of the Australian legal profession and is trusted that you will approach this role with all the exceptional dedication to the law as you have demonstrated. On behalf of the Australian Government and its citizens, I extend to you my sincere congratulations and welcome you to the Federal Court of Australia. You will be an adornment to it. May it please the Court.
Thank you, Attorney General. Mr Toomey is the President of the New South Wales Bar Association and representing the Australian Bar Association.
May it please the Court, may I respectfully adopt, Your Honour, the Chief Justice and the Attorney General's acknowledgement of the Gadigal people on whose traditional lands we meet today. The New South Wales and Australian Bar Associations congratulate Your Honour on your appointment. Your fellow judges are, of course, delighted by your presence on the Court, and they and the Bar are confident that you will bring to the Court the same integrity and acumen that have long been your hallmarks in practice. As we've heard, in 1991, Your Honour graduated with the Bachelor of Science from Macquarie University. During those studies, you were recognised through awards such as the Lefebvre Prize for Physical Chemistry and the final year Physical Geography Prize. In 1994, Your Honour was awarded a Bachelor of Laws with honours from the University of New South Wales, in which you were ranked in the top 5% in your graduating year. While still studying, you were awarded the Cause Chambers Westgarth Scholarship in Law. Your Honour was admitted as a solicitor in 1994 and called to the Bar in 2006. As we've also heard, before you even stepped into chambers, you had already distinguished yourself by being awarded the prize for the highest aggregate score in the bar exam. Throughout your career, you have been an active contributor in the areas of human rights law and public law more generally. Before Your Honour was called to the Bar, you worked as a solicitor at Freehills and as a senior legal officer and deputy director of legal services at the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission, now of course the Australian Human Rights Commission. During your time at the Commission, commencing in 2001, Your Honour was involved in the exercise of many of the Commission's various functions. These included intervening and appearing as amicus curiae in proceedings involving human rights and discrimination issues. In this role, Your Honour had the carriage of several significant cases in the High Court and the full Federal Court. That saw Your Honour actively involved in the drafting of written submissions and the preparation of oral argument, equipping you well for your transition to the Bar. At the Bar, Your Honour specialised in public law, specifically constitutional and administrative law and appellate work. Your experience in these areas was recognised by colleagues and was objectively undeniable. Your time at the Bar, however, as for most, began in somewhat less glamorous surroundings than those in which you ultimately found yourself. You commenced in the photocopy room at 5th floor St James. As Your Honour will recall, the photocopy room was a small hideaway which contained the printer, photocopier and a small desk for the reader. Your colleagues recall that for a while that space also contained your cycling gear, which you would hang around the room to air. This continued until you were gently told that others may not appreciate having to navigate their way around your lycra shorts in the height of a humid summer to collect their printing. In 2019, Your Honour's contributions and recognised expertise, particularly in the field of public law, saw your appointment as Senior Counsel. In your time at the Bar, you have appeared in over 50 appeals or original jurisdiction matters in the High Court. As an advocate, Your Honour was known for being calm, well prepared and considered. These attributes will undoubtedly serve you and those who appear before you well in your role as judge. A former colleague described you as simply a very nice man, with the only vice to speak of being your caffeine dependency. Your Honour recounts a time during an interstate hearing where you might be said to have overindulged. You had ordered such a quantity and array of coffee to your sole occupancy hotel room, including long blacks, cappuccinos and piccolos, that the room attendant eventually queried whether you were harbouring a second guest. Throughout Your Honour's career, you have made many pro bono contributions. As a solicitor, as we've heard, you volunteered at the Redfern Legal Centre, for which you were awarded the Pro Bono Community Legal Centres Award in 1998. As a member of the Bar, you served on the New South Wales Bar Association's Human Rights Committee and as the chair of the Australian Bar Association's Ethics Committee. Your Honour has also been a Fellow of the Gilbert and Tobin Centre of Public Law at the University of New South Wales and has contributed to the profession's discourse on public law through your involvement in several legal publications and seminars. Your Honour will bring your many qualities to the bench, not least of those are that you are consistently well prepared, unfailingly polite, and exceptionally well versed in the technicalities of the law. The New South Wales and Australian Bar Associations welcome Your Honour's appointment. May it please the Court.
Thank you, Mr. Toomey. Ms. Dawson, Senior Vice President of the Law Society of New South Wales and representing the Law Council of Australia.
May it please the Court. I too acknowledge the Gadigal of the Eora Nation, the traditional owners of the land on which this court stands, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I acknowledge and extend my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who are with us today. It is my privilege, in the presence of your friends, colleagues and family, to offer congratulations on this momentous occasion. I am privileged to do so both on behalf of the Solicitors of New South Wales and the Law Society of New South Wales, and on behalf of the whole legal profession and the Law Council of Australia. The bench of the Federal Court is strengthened considerably by Your Honour's warmth and breadth of legal knowledge. Those who spoke to the Law Society recalled a barrister who was sharp, kind, and truly a pleasure to work with. The clerk at 5th Floor St James Hall referred to Your Honour as our hippie, that's in quotes. Whether this is more to do with Your Honour's long-held interest in human rights or Your Honour's enviable ponytail, our informant did not make clear. What she did make clear, however, was that Your Honour will be greatly missed by the chambers where you made your home. But long before that, as we have heard, Your Honour worked as a solicitor at Freehills in commercial litigation. While the firm had not yet introduced a senior associate system, the Law Society is reliably led to believe the partners considered Your Honour to have been at the senior level. While at Freehills, Your Honour also instructed in a federal court matter which lasted for 3 years. Good preparation, possibly, for some of the shorter matters ahead. Your Honour left the law, briefly, to look after your 2 children. Your Honour told the Law Society that this was the best thing you had ever done. Your Honour holds your family dear, and today I am sure they are enormously proud of your elevation to this bench. Abundantly clear from the Law Society's research is that across all levels of the profession, Your Honour is held in high esteem for your warmth, your guidance, your strong-held values, and your depth of legal knowledge. One of the Law Society's informants said Your Honour was, and I quote, the kindest silk at the bar. To those silks present this morning, that title is now up for grabs. The Law Society has heard from more than a few sources that Your Honour is known and indeed loved for your softly spoken nature. To quote one source, Your Honour was loved by clients for what was called a lack of bombast. Your Honour never felt the need to talk over others, although when it came your turn, Your Honour was frequently proved correct. One former colleague described meeting Your Honour while he was a young solicitor at the beginning of his career. You were the first barrister he met, and you were, and I quote, not at all what he expected of a barrister. Your Honour was, we are told, friendly. I don't know what they must teach in law school these days that this came as a surprise. Those who have had the opportunity to learn from Your Honour feel indebted to you. A junior barrister who read for Your Honour described you as very, 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 and there were 3 verys, good at his work. But Your Honour's work ethic is particularly well regarded. This barrister told the Law Society that Your Honour is, and I quote, a crammer. He would be crazily preparing for court until the early hours of the morning, the Law Society heard. Your Honour would then rely on surely and apparently a notable unhealthy volume of coffee when the sun came up. But your junior would never have been able to tell if she hadn't seen it for herself, since Your Honour remained unfailingly calm. The act of cramming is unfairly associated with the underprepared, but in this instance, I believe it should be seen as fastidious care. Your Honour is known to always be exceedingly well prepared, and your dedication has made you one of Australia's most accomplished silks in constitutional and administrative law. And within the court, Your Honour is trusted, thanks to your straightforward style and, as we have heard, your thorough familiarity with the matters at hand, as well as your extensive pro bono work. As we have heard, there is no shortage of significant cases in Your Honour's illustrious career at the bar. I would like to mention Vanderstock and Victoria of 2024, which was heard in the High Court. Your Honour acted for the plaintiffs and successfully argued that the Zero and Low Emission Vehicle Distance-Based Charge Act 2021 was invalid because it conflicted with the Federal Parliament's exclusive power to impose excises as established in Section 90 of the Constitution. It was the first time in the 21st century that the need arose for the High Court to examine Section 90, and Your Honour's work helped ensure people were not unduly but accurately taxed when purchasing low-emission vehicles. Also to Your Honour's credit is a robust legal bibliography, including constitutional law and administrative law, and you have addressed conferences on constitutional and human rights law. I would like to sincerely thank Your Honour for your contributions in guiding the profession around these matters. Beyond the law, Your Honour is an outdoorsman. Perhaps contributing to the aforementioned reputation, Your Honour is known for your aversion to suits and, as we've heard, cycling to work. You also enjoy time bushwalking, reading, travelling and watching movies. It is always genuinely moving in the research for the process for these speeches to hear other lawyers talk with such affection for one another. Former colleagues of Your Honour were unanimous. None of them is surprised by your appointment. Your Honour's intellect and skilled advocacy mark you out. All are saddened by the loss of the light in the profession, but glad to see this bench brighter for it. It is my privilege to convey the affection and the congratulations of the more than 110,000 solicitors across Australia to Your Honour today on this appointment. May it please the Court.
Thank you, Ms Dawson. Justice Lenehan, I invite you to reply.
Can I too start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and the land on which we gather today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. Can I also attach myself to an explanation eloquently given by my new colleague, Justice Kennett, at his own welcome ceremony as to the importance of that acknowledgement. As His Honour pointed out, if the terrible disparities in opportunity and life experiences of First Nations people of this country and those of us whose ancestors came more recently are to be remedied, the starting point must be respect. For that reason, as His Honour said, when we meet for these kinds of ceremonies, particularly in the institutions of power that have displaced traditional governance, it is a good thing that those who speak pause for a few moments to acknowledge the people on whose traditional lands we meet. In that way, those words have power and are not merely formulaic. Their power lies in making us think, and that is something that I have done in preparing for today. Thank you all for being here. I'm very grateful for the time you've taken out of your very busy lives and schedules to be with me today. And particularly to many of those who have travelled from interstate, including my friends from Vic Bar and from AGS Canberra. Thank you in particular to the Attorney General, Mr Toomey SC and Ms Dawson for speaking today and for the evident care invested in their remarks. And thank you also to the Attorney for trusting me as your first appointment, and I promise to fulfil the faith that you have shown in me making that appointment. As is often the case, some of what was said is flattering fiction, but I do feel like I need a good pep talk in preparing for this new role. And I also specifically acknowledge the presence of Chief Justice Gageler, Justice Jago and Justice Beach-Jones of the High Court, Chief Justice Bell and President Ward of the New South Wales Court of Appeal, Justice Donoghue, who has travelled here from the Victorian Court of Appeal, Chief Justice Preston of the Land and Environment Court, and other President and former Justices of the New South Wales Court of Appeal, the New South Wales Supreme Court, the Federal Circuit and Family Court, and of this court. And thank you also, of course, to the Chief Justice and to all of my new Federal Court colleagues for the very warm welcome they have given me since being sworn in. I very much enjoy coming to these ceremonies for other people. I am far less comfortable being the subject. Raising my level of performance anxiety, my fabulous new associates, Grace Lee and Eloise Doherty, have given me lots of examples of speeches made by my new colleagues at welcome ceremonies, and they are excellent. In fact, I am told by Grace that the speeches at these events are now an area of study and comment in academia because of what they reveal about the changing face of the judiciary and the diversity or sometimes lack thereof amongst its members. All of that made me think again about why we do this and what this occasion means. In her welcome speech last year, my good friend and new colleague, Justice Bennett, said that instead of seeing this as a self-indulgent form of self-admiration, we should regard it as a moment of reflection where we're invited to bring into focus that the role we perform is about others more than about ourselves. I very much like that idea. I think it also points to the fact, which is the point picked up by Chief Justice Mortimer, that we are all very much embedded in and defined by the people and the communities who have shaped us and who we now seek to serve. And so perhaps the really lovely thing about today, and the reason I feel a little bit less awkward about what I'm about to say and being in this strange new position, is that this is my opportunity to say thank you to the many people who have helped me and also forgiven me for my frequent hopelessness over the years. The first of those is my wonderful partner, Selena Chu, and you've heard a little bit from the attorney about our, what I'll call Redfern Legal Centre love story. The lesson for those of you who are despairing of dating apps and swiping right is that true love, as well as snacks of variable quality, awaits you at your local community legal centre. There are many other excellent reasons for helping our community legal centres, and they're fine work for people in real need. But I see no real problem with that, with the concept of altruism with benefits, which is what I've experienced. Selena and I, as you've heard, volunteered at RLC on different shifts, and we might never have met, but were brought together by a fateful volunteers dinner over 26 years ago. The venue was a fairly grungy Newtown dive. I think there was Nirvana and possibly Homos. There weren't enough seats, so we sat on the floor, notwithstanding a carpet that seemed to be decorated with even more ancient condiments from earlier RLC dinners. And we talked for the rest of that night. I loved and I still love the way Selena makes me think again about things that I think are settled. She is endlessly curious, a truly original thinker, and almost invariably right, which is something that I am perhaps ill-advisedly recording in the transcript of these proceedings for her in the future. She's also the love of my life and my closest friend. We have, as you've heard, been very fortunate to have two fabulous children, Olive and Sebastian. Olive is here today. Sebastian is watching on from Copenhagen, where he is on exchange, before seeing more of the world. At least that he told me he was going to watch, but there is always the replay and he can skip by the boring bits about the law. Selena and I have really loved watching them grow into the accomplished adults they are today. We are both immensely proud of them and we can't wait to see what they do next. But I promised sincerely to embarrass neither of them, and so I am limited in what I can say here. In starting there, I've skipped forward a few steps, and my own story, in fact, starts a bit earlier. I grew up in Armidale, which is in northwest New South Wales. It is the country of the Anawan people who have been actively attempting to reclaim their language and culture. My mum, Wallace Lenehan, grew up in a railway family in Werris Creek, also in northwest New South Wales. She had a long and varied working life where she reinvented herself a number of times, sometimes because she wanted to, sometimes because she had to. When my brother Bruce and I were small, she ran a childcare centre out of our home so that she could be there when we came home from school. She then moved on to a number of different jobs, including at the University of New England, where she worked at Drummond College and later helped people with disabilities gain access to education on a more equal footing with their fellow students. My mum shows love through doing stuff. At Drummond College, she made birthday cakes for all of the many students she was looking after, and she brought that love home to us. My dad came from a family of teachers and, as you have heard, was the maths master at Armidale High School. And in what I can only assume was a noble but misguided parental attempt to instil resilience, Armidale High School was, as you have heard, perhaps accidentally, also the school my brother and I attended. In addition to teaching maths, my dad was a school disciplinarian and a late holdout for corporal punishment, perhaps extending to capital punishment for significant crimes against calculus. And so after initially deciding that I would probably spend all of my 6 years of my secondary education in the school toilets, which were both grim and seemed to have lots of fairly pointed graffiti about the Lenehans, I discovered, to my pleasant surprise, that Dad, in fact, had a secret cult following amongst my friends. Like many great teachers, my dad is and was an excellent storyteller. To this day, I don't know whether his many Wollongong surfing stories, some involving sharks, are fact or enhanced fiction, but I am told they made double maths on a Friday afternoon somewhat bearable. One of my friends from school and Dad's former student, Michael Trey, is here today with his partner, Lizzie. Many Armidale kids leave for the city, which is what we both did. But our friendship group continues to meet up from time to time, and I'm very grateful to be reminded of even more tragic hair disasters from my youth, which ranged from fake Robert Smith from The Cure to an outright mullet. Selena and I also share mathematical fathers. Selena's late father, Dr. Chu, who, unlike me, had exceptional voice projection, kept lecture halls filled with 300 plus first-year Sydney Uni pure math students entertained despite the subject matter. One of his favourite mathematical jokes was that it was a sufficient condition for finding him to know the building where his office was. It wasn't a necessary condition to know his room number because his voice was so loud. I'm assured that math students find that joke hilariously funny. He would have made a very fine barrister, albeit that he would have scared all the softly spoken public lawyers like me. He and my mother-in-law, Yit Sin, who is here today, have loved me like a son, and their support has been unconditional. Sadly, unless I have another late-breaking dramatic career adjustment, the Lenehan Chu mathematical dynasty probably ends there. But we are aware of how fortunate we are to have had both our sets of parents around while Olive and Sebastian grew up, and we are truly grateful for their love and support. As you've heard, at university, I studied science law, first at Macquarie and then at the University of New South Wales. I think I chose to study science with law because it was slightly quirky and therefore, to my mind, cool. More probably, it just screamed very confused geek. Our son Sebastian seems to have continued that tradition, doing arts engineering, which he won't mind me describing as delightfully weird. When I moved to UNSW to finish my law degree, I had two excellent pieces of fortune. First, I met Kylie Kilgour, who has stayed a close friend. She's now a Deputy Commissioner at the National Anti-Corruption Commission, but has taken time off for that important work to be here today. The second piece of good fortune was that I enrolled in a course which UNSW ran in conjunction with Kingsford Legal Centre, where students were let loose on case files for Kingsford's clients. At that time, that was a fairly novel approach to legal education in Australia, run by Professor Simon Rice, who enthusiastically and very patiently steered green law students through law and procedure that we hadn't touched in law school, and also introduced us to clients whose social circumstances were radically different to our own. That was my first real exposure to the large difficulties faced by people experiencing real economic and other social disadvantage, trying to navigate a monolithic legal system which frustrated them at every turn. And so some of you may have been surprised that I took that experience working at the coalface of social justice and went straight from law school to Freehill, Hollingdale and Page. That was something of a surprise to me too, but after recovering from my initial culture shock, which included surprise at discovering there was in fact no one called Freehill or Hollingdale, but I think there was a Mr. Page, I came to notice that I'd lucked in with three great partners, Rebecca Davies, Bruce Ramsey and Graham Johnson. All of them were formidable litigators and are all here today. I also had some very fine coffee buddies in the form of Lynn McMahon and Melinda Ridley-Smith, who are also here, and fleetingly hung out with Justices Kirk and Moore, who were then on their way to the bar. All of those people and many others led to my staying at Freehills rather longer than I'd expected, and I'm extremely grateful for their friendship and their tolerance of my complete ignorance about almost all aspects of commercial practice. I was certainly a better lawyer after their patient instruction. Freehills also gave me the opportunity to follow my real passions in the law. They sent me back to Kingsford Legal Centre as a seconded solicitor. And when a job came up in the legal section at the Australian Human Rights Commission, they let me take leave without pay, which I think may have continued almost up until the time I decided to go to the bar. At the Commission, I had my first taste of public law High Court work in the McBain case and my first experience of Brett Walker SC, who represented the Commission with Kate Eastman SC. I hadn't seen the High Court or Brett in action before, and both made a deep and lasting impression on me. Far less impressive was my own contribution, which notably included crashing the trolley in one of my first experiences of the treacherous slope in courtroom 1. Sadly, the adoption of iPads has made trolley pushing a less relevant skill in Park's Place. But my tip for young players is to get a good run up before you hit the bottom, and certainly don't stop before you're 3/4 of the way up. During my time, the Commission was headed by the late Professor Alice Tay and John Von Duser KC, formerly a Justice of this Court. Both were very adept at dealing with the controversy that often accompanies the Commission's work, and that meant that the staff of the legal section were able to focus on our substantive work, which involved both international human rights law and also hard-edged public law arguments exercising the Commission's intervention and amicus functions. A number of my very lovely colleagues from that time are here today. Jonathan Hunya, who now heads the Justice and Equity Centre, Julie O'Brien, who's now a Deputy Commonwealth Ombudsman, and Professor Karen O'Connell, who's now at UTS. And that work is now in the very capable hands of Graham Edgerton, who is also here. Being at the Commission also gave me the opportunity to work with some of the best public law barristers at the bar, including, in addition to Brett and Kate, Chief Justice Gageler, Chief Justice Mortimer, Justice Robertson, Justice Kirk, Justice Horan and Justice Pritchard. It probably seems fairly obvious now that I was beguiled by all of that adversarial brilliance, but it took me a while to realise where my heart was taking me before taking the bar exams in a rush and coming to the bar in 2006. I was really fortunate to read with Justice Beach-Jones and Judge Rennick. Both of them were very helpful in helping me adjust from the Commission to the very different life of a barrister. And both of them have been equally welcoming in my transition to this new role. My adjustment to the bar was also assisted by being in what you've heard was the humidity crib-like embrace of the Level 5 St James photocopy room, where I did my reader's year, that then turned into 2 years. And as has been noted, visitors to that room might be struck by the total absence of windows and may be struck by the industrial size photocopy machine, which both dominates the landscape and towers over the reader, but also provides a source of warmth and cheap paper. But there are other real qualities to the room, which I think are twofold. First, just outside the door, outside the photocopy room, lies Brett Walker and Noel Hutley's rooms and the wealth of knowledge and experience that they bring. And secondly, concealed by the compactus, and at this point I deny much of what was said by Mr. Toomey about bike clothes, there is a secret Narnia-like entrance to a lightless triangular void, which I found useful for both concealing bicycles and bicycle wear. My time on 5 St James was a real pleasure. In addition to Brett and Noel, the members of the floor at that time included Justice Robertson, Justice Marr, Justice Garling and the late Justice Foster. All were generous in giving me time and work, and Justice Robertson in particular took care to induct me into the public law bar, which came to dominate my life as a barrister. You've heard that after my readership, I took advantage of the flexibility offered by the bar by taking a year off to look after our children. Olive was starting school that year, and Sebastian was a lovely pram racer. I highly recommend that to all barristers with young families, particularly my male colleagues wanting to more equitably fulfil their family responsibilities. When I returned to practice, I spent a very happy couple of years at what was then controversially known as Baby Banco, where I met the formidable Justin Gleeson, SC, of whom I'll say more shortly, Justice Adamson, with whom I was fortunate to work closely, and Dr. Ruth Higgins, SC, who's been a friend and inspiration throughout my time at the bar. But I always had my heart set on returning to 5 St James and returned at the chance when a room came free. By that time, and this continues, the room had suffered considerable judicial attrition with only Brett and Noel remaining, but it has continued to reinvent itself adding and sometimes losing wonderful barristers like Richard Lancaster SC, Gary Rich SC, Justice Owens, who is somewhat worried that he's about to become my neighbour again, Emma Bathurst and Chris Tran. I loved every minute of my time there, and it is one of the things that I'll very much miss about the bar. That experience was incalculably enhanced by my extraordinary PA, Jennifer Campbell, who brought order to my practice and to my room. Jennifer also knows every person worth knowing in the Australian musical industry and even has a story to tell about Radiohead and tea, which I'll not spoil because it is hers to tell. I owe a very large debt to my excellent clerks Paul Daly and Carolyn Daverin. Carolyn started at 5 St James when I was doing the bar course. She has seen my kids grow up and I've watched her progress in her career, during which she learned on the job from Paul, who was widely considered to be the best clerk in the business. Caroline is a very worthy successor to that title and was the secret weapon behind all our practices, alongside Danny Mason, the quiet, hardworking man of mystery on level 5. As I've already noted, my work as a barrister was dominated by public law, and I was privileged to work with 3 Commonwealth Solicitors General. The first of those was Chief Justice Gageler, who had a truly lovely and elegant oral advocacy style, which was both succinct and forceful. I still have some of His Honour's notes for oral argument, which consisted of 2 or 3 typed propositions on a largely blank page. It was a form of highly persuasive poetry and some of the most effective advocacy I've ever seen in the High Court. Underlying that, and something you more appreciated as His Honour's junior, was a deeper systemic big picture view of the law, which one now sees in His Honour's writing. My second Commonwealth Solicitor General was Justin Gleeson SC, who is a force of nature and another formidable advocate. We worked on many difficult matters for the Commonwealth together, but I didn't really appreciate what it was like to be opposed to Justin until I took on part of the oral argument in a High Court matter in which I was appearing with Ron Merkel KC, and experienced the full force of Justin's attention. Always a fair advocate, he commiserated with me afterwards and had some pointed suggestions about where things had gone completely off the rails, which seemed to have their origin in being foolish enough to take a brief against him. He's been a true friend and a supporter, and has conducted semi-regular career coaching interventions where he's reminded me to think about what I wanted from the bar rather than allowing things to drift along by chance. My third Commonwealth Solicitor General was Justice Donoghue, with whom I'm sharing this season of welcome ceremonies. I recently attended His Honour's own welcome ceremony at the Victorian Court of Appeal, and he's done me the considerable honour of attending mine. At the time His Honour became Solicitor General, I was looking for larger oral advocacy opportunities, and His Honour showed me exceptional generosity, sharing the argument in some important matters in the High Court and offering guidance and support. Like each of his predecessors, His Honour had a fabulous appellate advocacy style, which was described as his welcome as involving the application of a quiet authority that earned universal respect, and which I've inadequately sought to emulate at the bar. With that work came the added bonus of working with very fine government solicitors, particularly the Australian Government Solicitor, now led by Matthew Blunn. A highlight of that work was working with the Constitutional Litigation Unit, which is currently headed by Niamh Lena Maguire and previously by Andrew Buckland KC, who is currently Acting Solicitor General. Both are here today, together with many of my other friends from AGS, including Simon Daly, PSM, the Chief Solicitor in Dispute Resolution. The New South Wales Public Bar seemed to naturally divide between people who did mainly Commonwealth work and those of us who did more work and those who did more work for the state. That may partially explain why I've ended up in the Federal Court, which I always regarded as my home jurisdiction. But I was fortunate to be briefed a number of times to appear with the New South Wales Solicitor General, Michael Sexton SC, and to work with the excellent team of solicitors at the Crown Solicitor's Office, including the current Crown Solicitor, Karen Smith, who's also here today. I also appeared many times against the Commonwealth and the state, which reflected a firm view on my part about the benefits of the cab rank principle. That included, as you've heard, taking many pro bono briefs, which I saw as a way of giving back to a system and society which has given me a lot. It was also some of the most rewarding work that I've undertaken at the bar. In all of those endeavours, I've shamelessly exploited the work products of fantastic members of the junior bar. I've had far too many to name individually, but I've worked particularly closely with Zelly Hagar, Brendan Lim and David Hume, all of whom have now taken silk, as well as Chris Tran, Celia Winnett, Tom Wood, Naomi Wooden, Jackson Werrett, Luca Moretti, Kate Bones and Liv Ronan. I also had 11 exceptional readers, most of whom are here today. That sketch of my personal history and the many people to whom I am indebted perhaps gives you some insight as to why I'm particularly attracted to this court and its work. It is not only that the matters over which it has jurisdiction that form much of my work at the bar, its approach to the exercise of that jurisdiction is one that chimes with my own views about the richness and benefits of the society and legal culture of which I'm a product. Commenting on the ethos of the court in an article published in the Australian Law Journal in 2017, Sir Gerard Brennan observed that the court was defined by a warm collegial spirit and that it was from the outset a court where courtesy was the hallmark and Socratic dialogue between bench and bar did not go beyond quiet discussion. His Honour went on to observe that the comparative youth of the court gives it the freedom to innovate and that its commitment to scholarship, integrity and courtesy commends it to counsel and to litigants. Without wishing to quibble at all with Sir Gerard, my own personal experience with the Federal Court has sometimes involved Socratic dialogue, which entirely appropriately exceeds the quiet, particularly when I've been defending a difficult proposition for government. But broadly speaking, that ethos of internal collegiality and cooperation between counsel and the bench is one that naturally appeals to me as a person who's gained so much from the important relationships and friendships which I have inadequately described today. And I look forward to working with you all in that different way in the future. Thank you very much for your attention today.
Thank you, Justice Lenehan. The court will now adjourn.
Oh, stand please. The full court of the Federal Court of Australia is now adjourned.